welcome to another LinkedIn Live. This time, our second demo day ever. Allie and I have been decided to do more demos, but it's been a little bit harder for us to schedule and a little bit harder for us to get people and or companies that are brave enough to do a live demo with us, because I guess that's kind of a new thing. People want to, gate everything and qualify everything and are afraid of putting themselves and their tech out there, because as we all know, every time you try to do a live demo, something goes wrong. So just be prepared. I think David's going to crush it, but just in case, we already had some technical difficulties backstage just with my little layout for demos using StreamYard. But we know our community is awesome. You guys know that we're just doing this because we love it, because we are curious. We want to see stuff, and so are you. So you're going to get some of that today. We are going to have a really fun, hopefully, episode and a demo with David Lee from TRACTIAN. And we want to thank TRACTIAN for sponsoring our show. They are a really cool company. They have hats, by the way, blue hats, they call themselves. So I decided to join with my own blue hat today as well. Yeah, David, welcome. And thank you so much for coming and doing this with us.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. Super appreciated. Excited to be here today.
Very cool. And Allie, hi. I'm so glad you're able to join. Where are you coming or going from?
I'm going between one job site and home to pick something up that I should have had with me.
Ah, okay. Yeah, the joys of field work. And then I think earlier you said that you went out and got sushi for your team that's on site, right?
I did. We ate a bunch of sushi, and now I have to go get power supply.
Very cool. Well, that's what the boss does, right?
Yeah.
You fill in, you let your people do their thing, you feed them, you take care of them, you make them happy.
Yeah,
my
new goal is to stop engineering and just support the engineers doing engineering. Because then I can just sit in the AC and not work on Rockwell ever again. Yeah, that's my goal.
And I want to say hi. Hi, David. I'm so glad you're here. It's been a while since I've seen you, man. Hope you're good. Live demos should be called Summoning Tech Goblins. Yeah, you know. Oh, Michael's here too. Thank you. Good to see you, Michael. Live demos typically fail. Happened to me last week while teaching. Yep. So it happens to everyone. So we'll have fun with it if it happens. But the first part, so what makes an Automation Ladies demo an Automation Ladies demo? Is that we want to talk to you, David, first. Like I told you before backstage, that we typically, if we interview, let's say, the founder of a company or somebody that came up with the product, we want to hear all about the whys, the story behind it. Why did you devote your life for 5 to 10 years or whatever that is? We all know startups are hard, right? You don't go into something half-heartedly if you're going to build a company around it. But I know we don't have Igor with us today. We're probably going to have him on a podcast episode sometime later this year. So I'm excited to hear that story. But I'm going to ask you a different question, kind of our standard question. But yeah, David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be here in this position with this blue hat on this podcast with us today?
All right. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, as well as my familial background actually applies to this as well. And this is a common thread between me and Igor. So both of our fathers actually worked in maintenance. My father was a naval officer. Initially, he was enlisted and he was an electrician and did maintenance on carriers. And then he commissioned, became an engineer. And so since I was a little kid, I've been going on the ship and seeing him do maintenance. He did have a hand in predictive maintenance and actually had some inventions that he came up with. Obviously, he was on active duty, so that didn't fall under his own name, and that was under the Department of Navy. However, that was my initial exposure to maintenance at a very young age. I actually joined the Marines, started in the aviation field, soloed an airplane at 16 years old, joined the Marine Corps at 17, went to undergrad, got an aviation undergraduate degree, and then went to graduate school for aerospace engineering. And of course, that engineering part is a requirement for what we do here at TRACTIAN. And so over the last decade, been doing operations as well as business development, and that's what's gotten me here today.
That is so cool. I was just telling, well, I think I mentioned earlier, but yeah, we just did an interview earlier this week. I think the episode will come out next week. with Terry, who is an aerospace engineer that went to high school with Allie. So
Nice.
it's a little bit different from the type of engineering that we do, but so very cool. And there's so many more applications now in like coming up in the future with all the space stuff we're doing too. So yeah, I can definitely see how somebody would be interested in going into that field. And I know I was like, oh, we want to talk to engineers, not salespeople. But sales engineers are a different breed. You're an engineer that helps people solve their problems by pointing them in the right direction and coming up with the right solutions. So you can, proudly wear your sales hat here as well. We won't give you a hard time for that. So how long have you been working with TRACTIan?
So it's still under a year since I've been specifically with TRACTIan.
What attracted you to go work for them, or what about the company made you feel like, yeah, I should go do this and work with these people?
A lot of different things. One of the primary things was the people, right? The founders. Number one, their passion for what they're doing. They're just awesome to work for and work with. The drive, the passion, it also matches my passion, but also the mission, right? So even though we focus in maintenance, which maintenance and maintenance personnel, that's who this is about. We're building an entire community full of passionate people so we can achieve that world-class maintenance all across the globe, and we can depress things like inflation that comes from unplanned shutdowns, making their lives easier, not having to work all the Sundays because machines are having issues. And so what we're doing is we're helping the economy on a macro level, but then we're focusing on helping the actual maintenance workers who are the unsung heroes of manufacturing. And so that's been our focus. And I understand the value and the need that we have right now in this time for us to focus on this. And so that's where the passion comes from. And that's why I'm here at TRACTIan.
Very cool. I even, there was a chocolate factory that exploded a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago. I don't know the complete cause of that. I didn't follow up on that to follow the story. But my immediate thought was something in there was not maintained well, or there must have been I think we have a lot of those. We have a lot of factories across our country and, globally that are not in the state of safety and, productivity that they should be. But
if you smell gas, say something.
Yes.
That's right.
Because we get used to it, but just what if you were annoying? What if you were annoying and you said it anyway? What's that really going to hurt? Nothing.
Yeah. So in the best case, you save some money. In the worst case, or I guess in the worst case, you save some money by doing predictive maintenance. In the best case, you literally save the lives of everybody at your plant and in your community by not having your factory explode.
Right.
Maybe I'm going a little overboard with that, but I think maintenance and safety for everybody, those are very intertwined as well. Can you tell me
100%.
What's the deal with the blue hat?
Risky jobs.
Yeah, so the blue hat basically is a representation of the community, and it's kind of like our banner that we're going to wave the flag under, right? So whenever anyone, we're developing our podcast, and you'll see some episodes coming out very soon. I'm actually a co-host with Jake Hall, the manufacturing millennial. And so what we're aiming to do is to bring everyone together so we can trade, not secrets, but trade ways and methods of doing things, try to improve the technology, learn from each other, and help each other out, basically. And so, we want to take things into the future, because at this point in American manufacturing, we absolutely have to onshore and do things effectively for our country's sake at this point. So it's a very passionate case for us in mission.
Also very smart to use a symbol that can be represented by a common emoji, the blue hat. I thought about this.
Right.
Allie got us this little purple octopus that it's a plushie and you can flip it. It either has a happy face or a sad face. And I was like, oh, why is there no purple octopus emoji? It's red or something. So way to go on the blue caps. I love that. And the fact that it represents community. We don't have an official community as Automation Ladies, but this has kind of come together and it feels like that a lot of the time. Are you guys an official community that's kind of hosted somewhere on some other platform? How can people join this community if they want to get involved?
Yeah, so all of that is literally right now being created. So if you look up the Blue Hat community, you also can go to our website at TRACTIan, and it's spelled just like TRACTIan, except for you replace the O with an A. and TRACTIAN.com. And that's where you'll get the information on the community, but it is coming out as we speak. And so you'll see more information on that, announcements and things of that nature here in the next couple weeks here.
Very cool. Well, then we'll make sure to reshare those on our Automation Ladies page, and we can add links to that to the show notes of this. If when we might put just like probably the interview up on the audio podcast.
Okay.
And then we can add links to that later, and definitely to the automationladies.io homepage. So stay tuned for the community, guys. If you're in that, in those positions, work with those people, definitely check that out. So I guess because Allie's in her car, her internet probably dropped. We'll see if she comes back.
Oh, okay.
But do you want to get started with the demo now?
Yeah,
or?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I wanted to add, you can post my actual LinkedIn there as well for people to reach out directly to me. And again, I am the co-host or one of the co-hosts there. And so I'll keep you all updated on things as we get this great information, and looking to help maintenance professionals as much as possible in every way we can. Awesome.
So if you're attending this event, you'll see that David is one of the speakers. Hopefully you were able to accept your speaker invite from LinkedIn. If not, we'll try to figure that out afterwards. But you should be able to find his LinkedIn page there. As well as we will attach it to your speaker profile or guest profile on automationladies.io. So people will be able to click on your LinkedIn and connect with you there, shoot you a message. Oh, yeah, and there's a Slack community. Awesome. Thank you, Blue Hat Marina. Let me see. You guys can see that in the chat. Right. You can click on that.
Yep, you can join the Slack community like right now, actually. So that's another option as well.
All right. And I guess maybe before we go into the demo, do you have like a pitch just about the TRACTIAN platform before we like kick off the screen share, or do you want me to just throw it up there?
Yeah, you can actually throw up this screen share, but it's pretty simple, right? So what we're doing is averting unplanned shutdowns. And so I know this is a little bit morbid to say this, but what we are is like the oncologist that tells you that you have stage 1 cancer, not stage 4. It's not impactful to your life. We don't have to change things. That's what we're doing for the machines, right? So we look for these failure modes as early as possible, and we're utilizing vibration analysis as well as temperature analysis to do this. So you have the information in the palm of your hands. You'll see in the platform at any point in time, any moment, live updates. So you can always know in advance and take control over your maintenance operations, essentially. So that's what we're doing. Stopping those unplanned shutdowns, making the lives of maintenance professionals more predictable and easier.
Cool. Well, I think we have the platform up.
All right.
And you are in the right place and I'm in the right place. So score, win for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So would you like me to go ahead, or did you want to start with any sort of questions, or I can just dive right in?
No, I think dive right in, because you just gave me the little intro right there.
All right. Awesome.
The one question I guess I already had that just popped up for me is, do you guys only handle the software, or do you provide the sensors as well that collect the vibration data and the temperature data?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. So I actually have a sample right here. This is our Smart Track sensor here, right? So this is where we're getting the vibration analysis. We're getting temperature analysis, and then we're also able to look at and add an hour meter there, a part of the analysis process there. So that is all housed right here, and this is our actual sensor. So along with this sensor, the actual infrastructure is very simple. It's a pane in the backside for us to utilize the different infrastructures in different companies and things of that nature. So in order to avert those issues, what we did is made it completely autonomous to where it doesn't have to connect to anything in the facility or on location, maybe in an oil and gas site. I worked in the oil and gas industry after graduate school. So that's why I'm mentioning that. And so what happens is this actual sensor communicates with a gateway that is our proprietary protocol, and it is not based off of your Wi-Fi or anything of that nature. It communicates with our gateway, and then that gateway communicates with our platform via 3, 4, and 5G LTE. And so we have managed to have it very effective because of the way we have it set up, to where everywhere in the United States, we've been able to have a strong enough signal to actually monitor the machines and give you the failure modes in real time and information that's critical for you.
Very cool. Yeah, I know that.
Like, you got SIM cards everywhere then, right?
So the SIM card is actually located in the gateway specifically, and so that SIM card you'll see on the actual gateway as well. We have two antennas, and between those antennas and that actual SIM card, we're able to basically have a signal that's roughly 2 to 3 times stronger than your actual cell phone. So I've actually personally been in facilities and not had any cell phone service. However, the signal for the actual sensors is good to go, and so that is how we primarily connect. Every once in a while, in some countries that are lesser developed, for example, as we are all across the globe, we may use Wi-Fi as an absolute backup when needed. However, that's a very rare case, and I mean literally less than 2% of the projects that we have all across the globe.
Okay, so you can really handle, any location and retrofit this to any machine, any type of plant equipment without bothering the IT department or any of that. Now, obviously, cybersecurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're putting connected things in a plant, but I guess because they're also not connected to any other systems, somebody couldn't really access like PLC data or anything else from your gateways, right? Because they're
it's completely detached rather from your data, from your company infrastructure. Everything is all housed in our platform, and there's no risk. Everything is end-to-end encrypted as well, and that's from the sensor to the gateway as well as from the gateway to our platform as well. So the IT conversations they make comments like, okay, so this was the shortest IT meeting I've ever had in history with the software. And that's why we did it that way.
Yeah, I think most companies starting up like now or recently want to be that way. Like I know with QuoteBeam, every time we have an IT conversation, they think it's going to be like a long, big drawn out thing. And then we have a 30-minute meeting and it's over. And they're like, oh, that was not what I expected. Usually these things end up dragging out for weeks. And that's why I put it on like the back of a long list of projects, and it's like, no, you can just get it done. So that's awesome. Yeah, so we're looking at some dashboards here and stuff. I'll try not to interrupt you too much while you do kind of some standard demo stuff. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. So I'll go ahead and dive right in. All right, so what you are all looking at right now, this is our initial entry point into the dashboard, right? So as soon as you log in, you could log in at our actual TRACTIAN.com, or it could be housed on an actual cell phone, iPad, whatever the case may be. Right now, what you're seeing is it's actually toggling through the different assets. This is your command center here, right? So what happens is you'll have across the top here, you'll have all your different assets and the status of those assets. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Green is good, right? So if you click on this card here, this has 16 assets, for example, in the green, in operation. Everything is normal, all is well. So if you click there, you'll see that we have all the different types of assets across here that's toggling, and we're talking about assets as well as sub assets. So you'll see these bubbles here that represents the sub asset. So if we're talking about a pump, right, you'll have the sub asset as the motor, like i.e. a WEG motor attached to that actual pump, and it could be a centrifugal pump. And those two would be sub assets of the overriding asset, which is the actual major asset. And that's what you're looking at here. Also, you'll see the in alert area here. So whenever there's alert, we'll let you know immediately, and then those machines will pop up here. The goal is for you to walk into your office or walk into the break room, have this screen up on the in the corner or however place that you'd like to put that. I think next to the water cooler is a good place. So while people are talking, they can keep an eye on the plant at the same time. But you can actually see what actual assets are in operation versus in alert versus having an unplanned stop. So if any of the assets that we're monitoring ever shut down, we're able to tell you immediately. So I don't recommend this, but even if you are at home in your bed as a maintenance manager and you were a little bit nervous about what was going on, you can pull it right up just like that, check it, and you can see, okay, I have a notification from unplanned stop. So that's what you're looking at there. Then we have the planned stops as well as the offline area there. And that's just if the sensor was disconnected or the gateway or something of that nature. And that's what you're seeing on this initial screen here. I call it the command center. Now, with that being said, I'll give you a quick run through of what all you're looking at, because as we go through the demo, I like to mimic a real story in life or a workflow. So we'll be jumping around from tabs. And so I just want to make sure everybody knows exactly what they're looking at. So again, this is the overview tab, which I call the command center. I click here as well to show you the asset tree. So maintenance professionals, generally speaking, utilize asset trees. We have different options of organization, but the asset tree is very self-explanatory. It's based off of location. We have that kind of social media, Google Maps type symbology, the blimp that actually suffices for a location. And then you'll see the boxes. The big box represents an asset, and the small boxes represents a sub-asset of that asset here. And then as you see, I clicked on it, and for example, you'll see a photo here with the actual sensor. I can click on it and I can see where the sensor is located. It's a little bit dirty, so it may not be as clear to you all, but the sensor is actually located right there over that bearing there on the motor. And so we're able to see exactly where the sensor is. We get data on what the actual make and model of the asset is, what the status of, like this one is in an unplanned stop, and we get readings and things of that nature. One thing that a lot of people have found is very cool is we have QR codes. So you can actually assign as many QR codes to as many assets as you have. Post those QR codes either on the wall next to an asset or on that actual asset. You scan in and immediately all the information about that asset pop up. And so that's a way to access the information and to share collaboratively quickly without having to think this whole process through very much. As I scroll down here, you'll see I have the assets that are correlated. So remember, I mentioned the sub assets versus major assets. That's what you're looking here. You can assign that there. But then also data sheets as well as they apply. And so you'll see things like RPMs, power, operational window. So if you all have 2 versus 3 shifts, that's information that we would know so we can notify you if an unplanned shutdown takes place. And so that's what you're looking at here in the asset window. And I'll keep that brief because we will come back and talk about that a little bit more. Then I click on the actual status portion there on that tab. And what you'll see is that same information across the top. I'm looking at that same motor there, and you see that same photo as well as an increased or enhanced amount of data. For example, to the additions here would be the assignees. Now, it's always a thing to mind who exactly is going to be assigned these actual repairs and things on these assets. So what we want to do is we want to automate your process and make it as streamlined as possible. So you can assign an entire team, like the entire maintenance department, or you can actually delineate a few different groups, right? Like let's say you have someone who's factory trained on WEG motors specifically, and you want that person to always kind of be in command of those WEG motors. You can actually assign that individual, or you can assign entire teams as well. And so that's what the assignees portion is. And then lastly, you'll see bearing and pulley data. So you give us the nomenclature, the make and model of that bearing. And we have over 70,000 bearings cataloged at this point. And you'll see that same type of data for the belts and pulleys. And effectively what this is this is a enhanced view to give you the status on that specific asset. So you see things like uptime versus downtime, and then the hour meter readings as well. This asset specifically was an alert, and that's why I clicked on it earlier, but you'll see the health score chronologically speaking. So, and again, this is a snapshot, right? So this is so you can have the situational awareness within 5 to 10 seconds, because as you use this, it'll be very quick and intuitive. But you see it went in from the in alert status down to the in operation status, then into the unplanned status there. So you'll know exactly what's happening. And that's why we have it color coded. So it's intuitive, quick, and easy to process mentally. And so that is that window. And then we have a couple other windows here. Here you'll see like the average global vibration there, right? So we do look deeper, and we're running failure modes and doing vibration analysis. But here again is a snapshot. So that's why you're seeing the average vibration as well as the average temperature with automatic thresholds that are established that if they cross, you're immediately notified. Now, with that being said, you come down here and you can look at the hour meters as it applies to on versus off time there. And so you can know how that actual asset is operating. And then we also are able to give you energy consumption. We do have another contraption that's called the energy track, and that is made to just basically monitor the energy on your assets as well. So that's an addition, and that can be added to your actual flow, but it's not required, right? Because we want to make sure that these are separate solutions that are 100% able to solve the problems. And then we had some requests by our customers, and we take a lot of feedback and we act on that feedback because we have a two-way communication stream with our partners on our projects and things of that nature.
Yeah, I can see why energy was asked for, because energy prices are, I mean, they're very volatile, but they in general are just going up.
Right.
And, you know, carbon footprints are something that we have to consider as well, in terms of when we have a big production facility. And I know there's both legislative reasons, economic reasons. I mean, there's a whole host of reasons why, if you haven't been carefully looking at your energy consumption as a facility, both from your own cost standpoint and, you know, everything else you should be doing for the planet, this is definitely, I think, something that comes up during a lot of conversations that I have about predictive maintenance. And I have some experience with that in a different industry. But what we see is that well-maintained, carefully calibrated equipment uses a lot less energy if it's operating as it should.
Right.
And that can be a huge cost savings in and of itself.
Nikki, you just made my job so easy. You literally said the next 3 points in my pitch.
Yeah, all right, keep going.
Welcome to the Traction Show starring Nikki, because she already knows. She's so smart, already knows what the solution is and where it's going. So that's exactly right. You'll see across the globe, as well as in different states in America, the marginal power costs are very volatile. So what you're paying at 12 p.m. is completely different from what you're paying at 6 p.m. So that is a huge number there. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make all the manufacturers more solvent, right? Everything is around return on investment and always about capital. And if we can't keep that in check, then we can't bring this value to the market. And so you 100% hit the nail on the head. That is exactly why they requested this, as well as those carbon taxes that are all across the globe now that are popping up, so we can be more friendly to the earth and things of that nature as well. So thank you for that reply.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I swear, people, I have never seen this demo before, so you're just getting unfiltered what I want to say. And I think even Allie had something to say earlier, but she ended up dropping off whenever you were showing like the QR codes and the pictures of the equipment. That was really cool too. And I also immediately thought, okay, now I need to talk to Igor about a partnership with QuoteBeam so that you guys can have your maintenance people order spares right away, like right from your screen if they need to. But that's I'll bring that up later. Keep going.
Yep, that's an awesome point, because as a project director, I talk a lot to maintenance professionals as well as executives, but we have a bottoms up approach. We get the users involved as early as possible. So I try to speak with the maintenance managers, the engineers, but also the technicians as early as possible in the process, because I just find if you get buy-in from them, they are, I don't want to say they're the most important, as someone who does come from that background, of course I'm going to say that, but the reality is, no matter how great the technology is in the eyes of the executives, if the end users don't like it, that is dead in the water, dead on arrival, right? So that's why we take that approach, because that's who we're helping, that's who matters, that's who we're focused on.
And hopefully there are enough spares in the facility where you don't have to order something new, right? But you do need to go get it or go find it, make sure you have it. And if you don't have a spare, God forbid, which again, a lot of facilities, unfortunately, don't keep that safety stock that they should on everything, right? Then you need to be able to get it right away and replace it if you have to, or service it, or whatever that looks like. But anyway, I won't. This is not my demo right now or my show, so I'll let you get back to it.
No, I love it. Everything you're saying is part of what our pitch is, or it's exactly what the feedback that I'm getting from the different maintenance professionals around the globe. So, like one of the things I would say, roughly a third of the projects that we do, a primary issue is getting parts and supplies to repair things, right? So I even recently had someone say that they literally had to wait for up to a year on a specific part on a specific motor. You have to think, right? Some of these machines are 30 and 40 years old. The suppliers may not exist anymore. They could have been offshore 20 years ago. There's a lot of different reasons that make it a headache for people sourcing parts. And obviously, as everyone know, I won't say the name of the last, I would say, world-changing event, but the logistics situation has become a nightmare. And so these are the things that we're trying to help you all out with, and are not trying, but we are helping you all out with, because now you have full control of your maintenance operations. You can now know exactly when you're going to fix things. You can choose to fix things when you want to, and when you have your planned outages and things of that nature. So that's what we're doing.
Hopefully reducing that unplanned, my thing is just fully broken now and it's down. I was flying back from Nashville after a show. I went to the Assembly Show South, and the person sitting next to me on the plane was a procurement person. Supply chain manager for a valve company. And one of her oil and gas customers was down and had been down for 2 days because of this large valve being down because the seal was bad.
Yeah, right.
And she could not get a seal anywhere in the world. She ended up finding a scrap seal with somebody in Nashville, and she took a flight that morning to go pick it up and flew back with it because it was cheaper than trying to ship it same day. And then they were going to rework that scrap seal and install it in the valve, because that process pipe in that oil and gas facility had been down for like 2.5 days. And we all know, like, that's a lot of money right there.
Yep.
And
I
you definitely would have wanted to know well ahead of time that there was some issue going on with that seal. So, that could have cost, you could have bought a replacement valve rather than paying for 3 days of downtime in the facility.
Right. Especially in oil and gas. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but that was the first field I went into after grad school, oil and gas.
Yeah.
Right? So to be down for 2 days is like literally an emergency for that operation. Like literally,
it could be millions of dollars in that case.
It will be. It can be. It is.
Yeah.
For 2 days,
exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. So this is what we're stopping, right? And we've been very successful at doing that.
So anyway, and I personally am just a huge fan also of like systems that can work by themselves. Like you don't have to do a whole, digital transformation of your whole plant to be able to do something like this that will give you almost an immediate ROI.
Right. Exactly. And so I don't want to be cliche, but that's effectively what we're trying to do. We want to be the easy button, right? As I always tell people, this is not to make more work for you. We even come out in some circumstances and actually deploy the sensors ourselves when customers do want us to do that. These are maintenance guys and gals. So, a lot of times they're busy. Like, they're busy, but then also there's such a simple function, the deployment process of these. It's like super simple. Like you see on the bottom here, there's a magnet. And then we have a high strength epoxy glue. You basically clean off the actual portion of the asset that you're going to be sticking that onto. You put the glue there, put the glue here, and plunk it on, hold it on. Within 2 or 3 minutes, it starts to hold. Within a few hours, it's curing. And then in 24 hours, bam, you're ready to rock and roll. You're getting failure data and getting an initial condition check on your actual assets. And it's literally just as simple as that. And so that's the point. We're not bringing more work to you. And then you will also see in the platform another issue. And Nikki, you can confirm this if you agree. And if you don't agree, that's fine as well. And it looks like we have Allie back.
Yeah, hey, Allie. And it looked like you wanted to say something earlier about the QR codes or the pictures.
I was asking, because he was showing these pictures, and I'm like, well, those pictures got to get there somehow. So do you make it easy for your people to get these pictures there? Like, can you do it from your phone?
Yep.
Because if so, I'm buying it right now. But I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
absolutely. And so right now I'm not in the actual phone app, but it works very similarly. Basically, as you see here, we can click on here and you can edit all this type of information, and we're able to basically just add it up. They're able to add it through the platform here. But one of the things we actually do whenever we're doing our engineering analysis in the beginning, we actually ask for photos of the asset so we can see what's in line, and then we can also determine what points we're going to put on your actual asset, these sensors. So that's a part of the portion. And we'll actually have those photos as well. So we're cutting out as much work as possible, but that's the portion that
so you ask for PNIDs then when you get to a facility.
Yeah, we want to have as much information as we can. Now, with that being said, remember that we have a lot of assets across the globe. The number is just under 600,000 assets under management. When I say 600,000, I mean pumps, motors, different types of mechanical rotating equipment that we have literally across the globe constantly being monitored. This is an online actual platform. So every 5 to 10 minutes, you're getting real-time data on those assets all across the globe. And so that's actually what we're doing. And one thing I do need to mention is we have an artificial intelligence algorithm that's USPTO patented. And so with all these assets across the globe, we're actually comparing your assets to the assets of all the other people who have that similar asset, so we can get a benchmark of that asset compared to yours and give you the information the fastest humanly time possible. And so that's one of the secrets, the parts of the secret sauce, our artificial intelligence algorithm that is USPTO patented. And so that's one thing that's really novel and something that I definitely need to mention. And so what that does is allows us to give you all failure modes in your initial condition, your condition monitoring within 5 to 15 days. And I can actually show you, since we're talking about that right now, what that looks like. Would you like me to do that?
Like most people, some people may or may not know that much about AI. I happen to have worked in it for a few years. And then now, you know, with ChatGPT and everything, people are talking about that. But this type of data, right? One of the things that makes it so valuable to have a system like yours and a platform that is, you know, working across different customers. Of course, you're not sharing any proprietary data of one customer's asset with another, but you're able to continually train and update your algorithm of all different failures that happen in all the different plants over, you know, the entirety of the time that you're installed. And like you said, if you start from scratch in one facility, or you're only looking at, you know, deploying a system within just your own plants, then you're having to start from scratch when you do that. And you have more limited information to work with. You're not going to get as fast of an ROI or just as good of a system as something that is trained on these types of machines, or, you know, whatever, valves or motors across the entire installed base. And that's, I think, one of the few very cool existing, very valuable applications of AI in manufacturing is this type of like cross application learning from one facility to another.
Exactly. And, you know, man, I'm actually going to take Nikki to all of my project meetings now, because she's explaining this as if she's actually the director of the projects. You understand this very well. Thank you so much. You're so smart.
Well, you're welcome. I think maybe now you can see why I was so excited to actually get, you know, to see this demo.
Yeah, we need to actually partner up here at Traction and your company as well. So yeah, that you hit the nail on the head. Human reinforcement learning, right? So that adds another point to it. When you all interact with the platform, when your technicians, they go through their flow and things, you'll see that we give you automatic KPIs. And that's one of the points that the reason why we're taking that human reinforcement learning into our platform. But the other thing is we get a much higher accuracy with our product because of the fact that we have this human reinforcement that's verifying the accuracy and giving you that high degree of assertiveness from an engineering perspective, that you have the exact right failure mode. And so, yeah, it would literally be weeks to months to even sometime up to 2 years if you were only looking at your specific asset or one specific asset, because it has to learn it and get to failures for it to even understand what's going on. But because we have this big data approach, that's why we're able to get to that information in the fastest time possible. And you'll see here, I have the initial health report actually brought up here. And so an example here, you'll see in 2 days, we were actually able to get that information to this actual company. Now, with that being said, that's anecdotal. We typically say 5 to 15 days. We want to under promise and over deliver. But in this case here, you'll see that this WEG motor specifically was verified and they got the initial health report or that condition monitoring within 2 days. And so what you're actually looking at is the information and the way that it comes to you. You'll see that in this portion right here, that's the assignees. This gives you the actual information about the vibration analyzed in the period. Across the top here as well, that's all the general information that we went over that was also in the status screen. So I won't touch on that too much. But here's where it gets good. And this is where you'll see the artificial intelligence at play. So we have a frequency acquisition range of up to 32 kilohertz, which is a wide range, right? So we're able to see the anomalous and higher frequency failure modes and able to take a stab at that and catch those as well. However, again, we have all this data and we're applying it to your assets. And so you'll see here the spectrum range, we actually delineated that from that original down to 4 kilohertz. But then after looking at the assets that are similar to yours, we said, we have a suggestion. We should look at an 8 kilohertz frequency acquisition range. And then we should actually change the sampling duration as well. And we did a little write-up just so you understand exactly what we're asking to do. And then as you scroll down here, then this is where you'll see the actual chart here where your asset here is operating with this speed from an RMS vibration perspective. And you see that this one is literally double what all the other assets. So you can think if there's 30 assets that are operating in this actual, the vibration is here comparatively to yours when it's operating at those RPMs and things, then you know that that vibration, without even understanding vibration analysis, common sense would tell you, okay, it's vibrating a lot more. There's more forces being applied to metal. It's going to start causing issues. So now you know within 2 days of starting this project, what exactly is something that you should be paying attention to. So that's the speed, right? Then RMS acceleration here, you see we do the same thing. The artificial intelligence looked at the different assets across the globe, and then they compared it with your asset. And then we saw that this one was 41% higher. And so that's another thing to actually look at. But then we give you another write-up and we tell you, okay, in this case, it's an above average chance of a premature failure, right? So this is just the initial snapshot of exactly what's going on with your machine. And then we had this traction health score based analysis here where we're looking at like your RMS speeds. And then what we do is we actually just take the different axes and then we normalize them. So we have this clean view here. And this is a quick peek at what it looks like. So we're just normalizing those 3 vectors there. And what we're doing is giving you a clean look at exactly what's happening. And you can see that this is breaking into the mild criticality area, meaning if you have a mild issue, but it only broke by 11%. So it's not an emergency, but you know that you should keep an eye on this machine now. And that criticality was in the mild area, but 99% of the samples we took was over the threshold by 11%. And so that's what you're looking at here. And so now you know what machines to pay attention to, because we literally do this. We start projects with hundreds of sensors at times, right? It's not always required. Sometimes we recommend companies to do a smaller pilot project, and so they can get familiar, and we look at the critical assets so we can get to the highest return on investment possible, right? Because we have to make sure that the people with the power of the purse are happy. And so we take that specific type of approach and focus on ROI. But not to get off track, you'll see that the RMS acceleration, when that L2 normalized curve here, you'll see that there were no breaks. So life is good there, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an immediate catastrophic failure, but now you know that you need to pay attention. And so as I scroll down here, that is the last chart there. But also you all can talk with each other, and you can add each other. It works the same as like Twitter or any other social media platform. And you all can say, hey, so-and-so, pay attention to this. This is your job. Do your job. Or, hey, so-and-so, you're doing a great job. if you all lead differently, you're doing a great job. So can you please check this as well? And so we make it to where it's very collaborative. You're interacting with each other. You're also interacting with our artificial intelligence algorithm. And then as we go, I'll show you where you're interacting with us as well, because we're like your teammates internally. We actually have 2 floors full of engineers, vibration analysts, and data scientists who are supporting our customers, our partners in those projects 24/7, and they're always available. And again, I'll show you here in a moment when we go through a failure mode exactly how you can interact with us.
Wow, that's really cool. I love the collaborative aspect of this. This is something that we see from our earlier demo that we did with Clarify as well. Like their software is very focused on letting the people on the floor that are interacting with these machines put in their context, because they also sometimes know a lot of things that are going on that you can't see a few levels above. And you look at the data and you're like, what the heck happened here? And there could be a very simple explanation if you were on the floor or in the plant that day.
Right.
But if you're just looking at it without any kind of context or comments from the people that are running that stuff every day, it might look like some sort of, crazy anomaly. And for an example, like there might have been like bad weather and it caused an outage. And if you were on site or whatever, you knew that, right?
Right, exactly.
So just collaborating and sharing information, and then also making sure that information is available in the history to others. Because we all know we don't have enough talent. We don't have enough people working these jobs. We've got a lot of, it used to be like, oh, all this information resides here. But then when you're not on shift or you leave the job, who knows that information? No one. Well, with a system like this, that information lives there forever attached to this asset, right?
Right. Yeah. All the time we have, for example, we have managers who are interested in the platform. And then they go and they look into it, and then they realize our maintenance logs are all over the place, or they're missing, or they're non-existent. And so now they're having to rebuild their process and understand even what is critical, what they need to do in order to even deploy something like this, right? So that person before them left, didn't share any of the information, and now they're there to fend for themselves, right? And so that happens a lot, because what happens is people come asking to start a project with us, and then as we go through the requirements, they realize that they need to go home and do some homework and do some research on exactly what's happening. So we're now ending that, right? You can always collaborate with each other. This is here basically forever, right? This data, we don't ever erase this data. So in 20 years, if you want to go back and you want to look at your assets and say, we might need to change vendors because asset A has been breaking down. We see in the Traction platform, the mean time between failure is a lot less than the other vendors' assets. So let's go with vendor B instead. You can look back at that history, and it's very easy and it's intuitive, because we give you those KPIs as well. So from a leadership perspective, you can make these high-level decisions.
Very cool. Allie, I've been muting you because you had some background noise before. Still got a little bit going on, I think, but I'm gonna pause and ask you if you have any questions.
Yeah, I think I, kind of see other softwares that I know in this software, and I was wondering about because you got that SIM card. So you're able to like call, text, and email people about anything going on, right?
Yeah. So so you're asking about the notifications, right? Like if there's an actual failure. Yeah. And so the way a lot of companies do prefer email, but we're also able to do so. And when you utilize the app, you'll get a notification in your iPhone the same way, like if you got a text, you'll get that notification at a flash right across your actual screen. But then also we have some companies and also overseas where they're utilizing apps like WhatsApp as well. So we are able to utilize that app because that is a common business communication app now all across, for example, in Latin America. We have a lot of factories in Latin America. So that's another way that we're able to give you those notifications as well. So imagine being on your couch after eating with your kid, and then you check your phone and you see you have 10 missed calls, right? And you're a maintenance manager. You can go in the platform and say, oh, okay, I got an alert about this. There's a shutdown. You can pick up the phone. Yeah, I already know what's going on my way. And that's at home, hanging out with your kids and your family,
Isn't that, Allie, you get calls sometimes there's a huge emergency and then it's really not an emergency, and if you could just look at what was going on, you could.
Yeah.
Being able to remote in when you can is everyone just gets that like sense of relief. Even just from remoting in versus like going there. So anytime you do have access to like remote in to the system, like that's where we're moving to, like across the board. We've been fighting that for a long time because we want everything super secure, and then we pushed everything to be connected, and now we want instantly to know everything. So how is everything doing right now? Tell me. And if there's an issue, I want to know right now. And so just, if we want that data that fast, then we're going to have everything connected. And it actually really is like assuring to know that before you get there. So
even if, like you said earlier, you were somewhere and you had to go get a tool that you should have had with you.
Yep.
If you knew more about the issue you were going to be there for, you probably would have made sure, or you could have been, more prepared with the right tools.
There's definitely like prompts, right? Like there's prompts you can ask ahead of a lot of things, and we don't always ask those things. And we just rush into problems because we're like responding to fires most of the time. And maintenance, that's kind of a thing in maintenance, is we're like, oh my God, it's broken right now. Yeah. So, that is the fire. And like, yes, we're going to do as much preventative stuff as we can. We're going to learn and do whatever. But like the fires are always going to like eventually show up. And yeah, sometimes we're not even grabbing all the data we could be grabbing from that because we don't want any more fires. So how are we going to stop all the rest of the fires? And how well did we do? Like like as a team, like we should grade ourselves like at each fire and be like, did we suck at this? Or like, was this what we should have done? And like, what are we going to do the next time this happens? Or how do we stop it? I mean, the analysis, the data is like needs to be processed. So it has to be collected in the first place. And that's half the problem, is just like collecting the data in a central place, which is what you're trying to do. And you're trying to do this on an automatic basis. You're like, no, we're just watching all the sensors, because it sounds like mostly you're outfitting vibration sensors, but you could put that on everything that rotates, which is most of the assets.
And temperature, right?
Yep, and temperature as well. There's a thermistor actually in here. There at the bottom here. And so, yeah, we're giving you temperature analysis as well, because obviously that's a big portion of it as well, and something that we need to consider. But you made a really good point about looking at those KPIs and trying to wonder, did we do a good job? Are we responding well? And so we take the guesswork out of that. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to skip around just a little bit, but you want to know how we make that easier? So we give you automatic KPIs on this information, right? So we look at things like the availability of the plant, right? And then we look at it based off of the specific assets and reliability as well. But also we're able to tell you things like mean time to acknowledge, mean time to repair, and mean time between failures. So right then and there, you now know, okay, so it's taking a long time for him to acknowledge or her to acknowledge. They probably have several work orders that they're juggling right now. We may need to add some manpower there. So now all this information is available for you. You don't have to go and kill a lot of brain cells to figure out this information, because it's there immediately. And we basically are updating this every 5 to 10 minutes, because this information is coming to us in real time, and we're processing it and giving it to you like that. And so we have a whole host of different KPIs that we can give you all as well as that applies. So I know I skipped around a little bit, but you talked about it, and I wanted to show that, yeah, as they say, a lot of times our customers are like, man, you guys thought of everything. And so that's what we're aiming to do.
All right, I actually you've got some awesome teammates that are in the chat helping answer some questions, because I didn't want to interrupt you, but we've had some audience questions. And if you don't mind, I want to take a second to bring those up, and I'm going to move you.
Okay.
Actually, I can't. I'm going to move you over here, and because I get blocked, or this area. So Marina's been answering some questions. So we had Calvin asked the battery life of the sensor, and it is 3 years. And then we had a follow-up question. If the battery can be replaced. Oh, we haven't gotten an answer to that one. Maybe I'll let you take that one.
I can actually answer that. That question. So this skips a little bit ahead. I know that you are probably going to ask about kind of like our model for budgeting and cost. So what we typically do is we're on a subscription model. So most companies are utilizing OpEx. However, for us, when it comes to processing, it's always about the customer. Everything is very customer centric, and we understand that every corporation operates differently. So we do have some CapEx models as well, but the vast majority are on an OpEx model, where there's a monthly subscription or yearly subscription cost there, and it's per sensor. And at the end of 3 years of that battery life, we actually replace the sensors at no cost to the actual customer or the project. And so that's how that works. You immediately get a new sensor. We're monitoring it on the back end, so we know when the battery gets low. The customers aren't even thinking about this. We send it out. We ask them to return the sensors to us, where we recycle it, because we have to be compliant. That's what our investors and owners expect of us. And so we're green energy compliant, basically. And so that's why we have that model. And then also we de-risk it for the actual customer by there not being any upfront fees, and they're able to do this project at a low risk. And we basically take on the risk by doing that.
No, I love that. That's what we do with our predictive maintenance business too, with the refrigerators and stuff. Like, you just don't want to have to worry about, you're doing all this to do predictive maintenance on your assets, and then you have assets that then go down, and then you have to buy and replace for the system that's doing that for you. So meta, right? No, you want it to just be included. Like, it's going to run, you're going to monitor it, you're going to replace it. You don't have to keep reinvesting in the equipment with new capital calls, right? It's part of that budget. And hopefully by the time you're replacing those sensors at year 3, you're probably getting plenty of ROI. To even if you did have to buy new sensors, it wouldn't matter. But I would be very surprised if any one of these installations by year 3 hasn't seen a tremendous amount of positive ROI. I think there's so much low-hanging fruit in this type of application. that as long as it's a system that's easy to install, easy to justify, and easy to work with, it's a no-brainer. But that's just my opinion, right? And I'm not getting paid to say that. That's literally just my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then Michael also asked a question, can the device data be exported to generate accurate models for use in digital twin applications? And we did get an answer from Marina here, and I don't know if you want to chime in on that at all, but yes, the data belongs to the client, so it can be exported. So that is pretty cool as well.
Right, exactly. We have an open API, and at this point where we are when it comes to SaaS and software and technology, if you don't have an open API, you're going to be non-competitive in the market, right? Because everything needs to speak to each other, or at least be able to. So we have a REST API, and we have that JSON, that JavaScript-based model where we're able to actually push and pull data. So that is an absolute affirmative.
Very cool. Well, I think that is all the questions and answers that we have so far. So I think you can keep going now with whatever you want to show us next. And then we'll interrupt you again promptly.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, feel free. So as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about that initial health report. I came back here just to wrap that portion of the conversation up. So one thing I wanted to point out, you'll see that we started doing the asset training on the 11th of January. And then on the 14th, they got that initial health report, right? And remember, we said that, okay, we're trying to give you this information in the fastest time humanly or technologically possible. And then if you notice here, on the 3rd of February, they already got a failure mode and they checked it for accuracy, right? So they didn't have to do a full overhaul or anything, but now they know what's the specific details of that actual performance of that asset. So right now, it's a simple misalignment that was detected. They went through the flow where it came to them in the pending status. They hit the inspection, then the intervention portion when they were intervening and had specific direction, and then they actually checked that. So you'll see that there was a break percentage, which is basically the number that's breaking over the threshold there. There was a 31% breakage, which was similar to what I showed you all previously. And then we give you information on exactly how we came up with this from a vibration analysis perspective, right? So we're not leading the blind. We're giving you the information. And this is actually a platform that's tailored for even short service employees, your green hats, the people who may be trained as a technician, maybe fresh out of school, but they're not confident yet. Of course, they're competent. We hired them, right? That's OSHA regulation that they have to be competent and safe. But what we do is we give you specific details on what the next steps are. So even if you're not comfortable or you're not necessarily the best at vibration, you can still know exactly what to do and be confident in those decisions. So as you see here, I mentioned that these are tri-axis. So you'll see in the horizontal axis is where this specifically told you it noticed the failure mode. Then it gives you the threshold number and then the number that broke that threshold. And then in the spectral component here, just in this case, this was by spectral analysis. And we noticed that the issue took place in the second harmonic, right? And so we tell you the failure mode and when exactly that took place. So as I come down here, I can zoom in a little bit. Actually, let me reset because I didn't zoom in well enough. You guys are probably asking, are you sure you're a pilot? But so there you go. So as you see here, you'll see in the horizontal, so it says in the horizontal direction here. So I can actually click down here and get rid of the other axis, and you'll see where the threshold broke that fundamental harmonic threshold in the second harmonic. So you see these bars here. These are the harmonics that correspond with the RPMs. And so that's 0.5, and this is that fundamental harmonic, that H1. And then you'll see in the second harmonic, that's where that spike took place, right? So in misalignment, for example, that's the actual signature or that pattern that you would look for. And then we show you a specific curve on exactly how we found this. So this is what the AI is actually doing. And then let's say, for example, you have someone who does not have that much experience and they see this and they're like, dude, I don't know what this is. I'm a mechanic and I don't do vibration analysis. I literally never taken a class on it. So the next question is, so what are my next steps? So we even give a prescription that's specific to that failure mode. And we tell you foundational problems. This is misalignment. So these are apply to apply to that specific failure mode, and you have foundational problems, fixation problems, solve footing, coupling irregularities as the possible causes. And this is in that prescription portion. But then we also tell you what specifically to inspect. So check the foundation, check the fixing, and then check irregularities in the coupling. And let's say that you still are not confident, and let's say you don't have any vibration analysts on your entire staff, which is very common nowadays. Believe me, I talk to a lot of companies, and that's definitely the case, and especially in the mom and pop and that mid-market operator type area there.
Yeah.
You come over here, you click on this support window here. This is not customer service or a bot. I know we're talking about AI, and people would wonder, okay, so am I talking to ChatGPT here? No.
Yeah.
so no.
No, we do chat on our site too, but it's like, it's us. It's the same
Exactly.
people. Like, you go to quotebeam.com and you chat, and it's like me and Roman and Nick and the same people that you would deal with calling on the phone or whatever.
Right.
I love chat when it's actually people that have something of value to say on the other end of that.
Right. Exactly. And so this is the actual engineers, vibration analysts, and data scientists who are assigned to your specific project. So you're talking to that consistent team. And then, of course, as issues get a little bit more, I'll say, more particular, then we were able to escalate that to higher levels of expertise there. But yeah, at any moment in time, you can start chatting with us. You can actually just say, help. and then you start chatting with us. Typically speaking, our KPI to judge ourselves is we want to make sure that everything is handled within 10 minutes of initiation, right? So in your actual cell phone, you can start chatting with us. What we found is using this chat is the best because, for example, when I worked in oil and gas, we were not allowed to be on our cell phones while we were out on the floor or while we were out on location. So being able to just chat there, you can get the information and you can get to work. And so we handle all those issues within 10 minutes, higher than 95% accuracy on that. And so we are your teammates internally. So we're able to look at your assets and compare it with all these other assets. It's like you have onboarded a whole bunch of 40-year vibration analyst level 3 veterans to help your operation. And so that's what we're doing. We're taking the green hat, the short service employees, and we're empowering them as well. So the maintenance managers and reliability engineers of the world can rest assured. And we're even addressing the manpower shortage and skilled labor.
That's huge. So you've built like a great technology platform. It's easy to use. I was just noticing like how responsive your data visualization was and how quickly you were able to zoom in and out of that. Like even just, I guess, older software or applications that are not as well architected on the cloud with that much data would take a lot longer to load that information. I know for me, it's probably a nerdy thing. Most people don't look at that, but you can have the greatest tech in the world, but if you don't have people that know how to use it, or they can't get up to speed quickly, or you don't have good support behind it, good people that you can reach out to, then, oftentimes those technology investments can fall flat. And that's really unfortunate because it's taken everybody a lot of time and money to approve and install and start using this type of stuff. And then, you want it to work and you want people to be able to get value out of it as quickly as possible. And so I think, that to me is less all no-brainer. You put in the service that's needed to make sure that your product works well and that nobody can complain that it didn't work because they didn't know how to work it or whatever that is, right? But at the same time, that adds a huge amount of value to your customer in actually being able to use it and get the help. So that's very cool. I didn't know about that at all until you just mentioned that. And
awesome.
Yeah, very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's the reality of where we are, right? So I don't like to say old softwares or old people.
Yeah,
or
my bad.
I say legacy, right? Because
okay.
I want to be like a good people person here. So we'll call them legacy platforms, and I'll try not to I'll try not to address them in a depreciating way. But with that being said, your comments are dead on. It's amazing to talk to you about this because you 100% understand the applications, the need, and the market, obviously, right? So that's awesome. So that's the thing, we're addressing the manpower shortages. We're even addressing the logistics issues now. So if you know that there's an issue with your machine, if that vibration, that initial health report is showing you that your RMS acceleration is high, double, you should probably start preparing for a potential issue there, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a cheat sheet basically for maintenance managers, planners, and technicians.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I know we're kind of cutting it. We're a little past the hour now,
Okay.
and I don't want to cut you short, but just to
Okay.
try to be aware of our audience's time and whatnot.
Right.
I'm going to try to keep my interjections to a minimum from here on out, so you can finish up whatever it is, whatever else you want to show us.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So no, I appreciate all your commentary. It's been very helpful. And so what I'll do is I will actually show a couple more failure modes. And then I have something that I think would be interesting. So as I showed you all those KPIs as well, we have a few upgrades and things as well. So we have a floor plan, for example, so you can have that global understanding of exactly what's going on and on the platform here.
Oh, wow.
And so you can actually see where the sensors are. You can see which are in the actual green is good. The green column there where there's not an issue. You can click on that. You can get a photo of the actual asset and you can see the sensor there in the field doing its job.
Wow.
And then you can actually click on the one that's an alert. You can actually look at the actual data as it applies. And so that's uploading now, but you can actually dive into that specific asset. This is another thing that gives you that situational awareness when it comes to the actual platform in your operation. And also you can check the sensors and make sure, the gateway as well, and make sure that the signal's good and there's no problems there as well. So that's something to mention. Another thing I'm going to just run through really quickly so you all know the KPIs that are coming to you all in a expeditious manner, right? So availability, reliability, mean time between failure, mean time to repair. This one is not populated, and sometimes companies have their own platform management wise, and they get that information. So sometimes they might not use it, but all you have to do is when you actually go through the insights and the failure modes, we actually ask you how long it took to actually repair it. And then we aggregate that data and give you those KPIs. So you just have to answer the question.
Right. So that's an optional. If you want to be keeping track of that KPI for yourself here, then that's available.
Right, exactly. And that's all you have to do. No extra work besides answering that question in the form. And then also mean time to acknowledge, as we mentioned earlier, things like working time, uptime, downtime, and offline, time by status in operation, unplanned stops. Then you're in alert status there, as well as there's a planned stop area, but we just don't have any highlighted here. Then also, you can look at things like the assets with the most failures, right? So as you if you have a lot of failures, you'll see which specific problem children are running around there and causing the issues. So that's your insights there. They're doing pretty well here, as well as you can also see things like the most common failures. You can see the insights by status as you go through that workflow, so you can know how much is pending versus how much is checked, and then in between. And then we give you an actual chart to represent that. And then the great Pareto, who made the Pareto's principle, we have that model where we're looking for the 20% of your assets that are causing 80% of the headaches. Always. And so that's what that is there, right? So we're applying, the good axioms of life when it comes to helping your operation. And then this is a new thing.
That principle applies to everything.
Right, 100%, 100%. Yeah. That was a life-changing thing when I learned the 80-20 principle and learned about Pareto. And so the last couple things is the failure versus savings. So another portion, you're able to fill out your cost of man hours, your cost of downtime, cost of inventory as well. And so that would be automatically populated. They're not utilizing that as well. So it's just a matter of if you all want to use it or not. Again, a lot of companies have their own internal platform that they're getting this information from. So that's typically why they're not utilizing it. And then also who specifically did what. And you can see who did the most work, who's the hardest working person, and who's not. And so this is how you're able to manage your actual operation effectively. And so just to touch on a couple more things, I'll show you another failure mode or two so you can just get a little bit more insight. So for example, this is an overload failure. We tell you the specific components because we're looking at that frequency spectrum domain, and we're able to look at the differences in the actual specific assets. Even if they're close to each other vibrating, we know which asset based off of those frequencies are the ones with that vibration. And then we know what components are actually giving you those specific issues because we're running this full failure analysis here. So you see the component specifically, the event, who actually checked that, they went through the workflow, and you can actually see here that this is a critical issue. It hit the critical area here. So that's an issue. You see, they fixed it, right? They needed to fix it, and they did. It was over 100% break in the vertical axis there. And then they got this via trend analysis, again, another way that we're doing this. And so we don't give you an alert based off of one data point.
Right.
We look for trends. So this is exacerbating. I know a lot of people have complained about technology having inaccuracy. And so that's one of the main things about what we're doing with our artificial intelligence algorithm and that human reinforcement learning. We're giving you that massive increase in accuracy. And so this is what happened. And that was another successful case. And that was done via trend analysis. And then, of course, we gave them a possible cause as well as what specifically to inspect. And there you go. So roller bearing wear and tear, different issues right there. And then what specifically to inspect, even things like quality and purity of oil levels. So we tell you what all could cause that failure, what the next steps are. And then another reminder here, you can actually talk to us here if you have any questions.
Yeah, so that's cool. I know being smart about alerts is also important because I
Mhm.
think in legacy systems, and
That's right.
we have our friend Chris here. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Legacy people, good people that built good systems, but with technology that wasn't available until now, right?
Right.
A lot of people got what I call alarm fatigue, which
Exactly.
you set up a lot of these simple alarms that go off whenever a certain condition is triggered in isolation, and then you end up getting a bunch of false alarms, and then people just they mute them. They are too frequent and they're not context aware enough, and then they start ignoring the alarms, and then when there really is a problem, they sometimes just ignore it because it's like they're just pissed off that they got too many alarms. And
right, exactly.
It's like the boy that cried wolf, right? You really want to make sure that you're only alarming with like a critical alarm or an alert to somebody's cell phone or whatever when it's actually something that needs to be paid attention to.
Exactly. When it matters, and making sure you're only alerting who it matters to, not the whole entire team. That's another thing. And that's why we have that ability to assign specific individuals, teams, or departments for that specific asset.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so here's another failure here. And we could wrap this up here because we're over time. But this is a failure of a roller bearing, right? So very common. Everyone has motors driving all their assets. And so we're able to tell you about that failure, and they went through the flow, they fixed it. This was a critical issue. And then you can see that the RMS speed was actually the thing that jumped out to us the most because it went into critical territory. So we're looking at that general waveform there with respects to time. And you see that was an axial axis there. And so we give you that information, and we give you the prescription on what exactly to do. And then, of course, people can interact with each other as well as us. And now everyone is cued in and everyone knows exactly what's going on in the operation, and there's no ambiguity. And that's what the point of Traction is here today.
Dude, love it. Well done. And nothing went wrong during the demo. So I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, me too.
Very cool. Well, what if somebody wants to ask more questions, get this demo for their team, interact with you, or maybe even try the system, where should they go? What should they do? I know we talked earlier about following you guys on LinkedIn. There's a Slack community if you want to join the Blue Hats. But if anybody really wants to have a sales conversation with you, how should they go about doing that? Yeah, so I'll actually say my email here. You all can email me, and I'll also leave my number as well. The other option, so number one, dlee@traction.com, and Traction has an AN at the end specifically. And then also my number is 720-823-7233. That's 720-823-7233. Feel free to call me there. And then the other option is going to our website, filling out the form there that you're interested, and then we'll have one of our business development managers reach out to you and we'll set up a call. Very cool. And then tell them the automation ladies sent you. We don't make any money off of that, but we just want to know if you watched this and you got some value out of it, because that makes everybody happy. For sure. So that we're not out here spinning our wheels and wasting our time. But hey, this was awesome. I really appreciated this. As you could tell, I was pretty into it. I like the stuff. So thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to, collaborating more with you guys. And we're probably going to have Igor on the podcast sometime, probably after my vacation, which is coming up very soon. And I know Allie dropped off, but, we'll say goodnight to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on a Thursday afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.